You want to know what happens inside her mind when you ask the right question at exactly the right moment. First, you have to understand one brutal truth. Everyone else is boring her to death. Every guy she's ever met has been running the same tired script in her direction since she was a teenager. Where are you from? What do you do for work? How was your day? You can hear the exhaustion in her voice before she even answers. The glaze in her eyes, the wall she puts up so she can survive another round of the same predictable, passionless exchange. But when you hit her with a mind-blowing question, something so unexpected and deep it cuts through the noise, everything changes. A switch flips. She can't ignore you. She leans in, not back. Her entire body language shifts. She's suddenly wide awake, aware, alive. She wants to know who you are, how you think, where this is going. You want to be unforgettable. Here's what you do. You make her reveal the person she is beneath the surface. You make her feel seen. And being seen is the most addictive feeling on earth. But you need to realize something crucial. First, understand this. It's not the question, it's the delivery. It's the tension, the timing, the way you look at her after you ask. The silence you let hang in the air, loaded and dangerous, while you wait for her answer. It's this energy, this confidence that tells her you're not like the rest. She's not going to fall for you because you memorize some lines. She's going to fall because you're willing to go there, because you dare her to go there with you. Now you want the questions, you want the artillery, but before you get ahead of yourself, you have to promise one thing. You will use these questions consciously, ruthlessly, with a kind of fearless honesty that most people can't stomach. Because these are not games, they're keys. Keys that open doors that can never be closed again. If you are, listen closely. Because the first question you need to ask isn't about her, it's about both of you. You look at her straight in the eye. You slow the conversation down. You drop your voice a little lower, just enough so she has to lean in to hear you. And you say, "What's the one thing about you right now that nobody else in this room would ever guess?" Let that hang. Don't jump in to fill the silence. Don't try to be witty. Just wait. This question does something primal. It snaps her out of the performance. It forces her to make a choice. Stay superficial or go real. And if you hold your nerve, if you radiate total presence, she'll go further than you ever expected. And once she answers, you've established the dynamic. You're not here for small talk. You're hunting something deeper. She senses it, feels it in the air between you. From here you escalate. Every question after this one has to go deeper, rip away more layers, demand more honesty. Because what you're really doing is building intimacy faster than anyone else ever has. You're not just making her think, you're making her feel. You want to know something. The human brain is hardwired for novelty, for unpredictability. When you ask her a question nobody's ever asked, especially one that makes her look inward, her dopamine spikes. She literally becomes addicted to talking to you. That's not an exaggeration. That's neuroscience. And if you want her to fall, I mean really fall, to feel that magnetic pull when she thinks about you, you keep digging. You ask, when was the last time you did something completely reckless, and what happened after? You watch her pupils dilate. You watch her scan her own memories, places she hasn't let herself visit in years. You watch her decide whether or not to confess to you, a practical stranger, the truth about herself. That's the real game. That's what no one else has ever risked asking. And when she answers, you listen. Not just with your ears, but with your whole body. You absorb her words. You reflect them back. You show her not with compliments, but with focus, that you're undistracted, unafraid, present. This is rare. She knows it's rare. She feels it like a charge in her skin. You take her further. You ask, if I could grant you the power to relive any single moment in your life, good, bad, whatever, what would you choose and why? If you don't think this is dangerous territory, you don't understand people. Because now you're asking about regret, about longing, about nostalgia. You're asking her to show you the places where she aches and the places where she remembers feeling alive. This is how you cut through years of surface-level bullshit and make her associate those wild, raw, luminous feelings with guess who? You. She'll start looking at you differently. She won't even be able to help it. The rest of the room fades away. You've pulled her into your orbit. The world has shrunk to just the two of you, locked together by the power of these questions and the electric tension building every time you ask for more and more and more. That is how you start. That is how you create obsession. It's the obsession that she'll never admit, not even to herself at first. But it's there growing, alive, pulsing beneath her skin, because nobody ever dared to make her see herself like this before. No one else ever made her feel the thrill and terror of true exposure in conversation. No one else gave her permission to want to be known, truly known. You're not just different, you're danger in human form. Once you've opened those invisible doors, you can't retreat into safety. You can't back down. You look at her, maybe a little smile on your lips, and you drop number 4 just as her guard starts to lower. What's the wildest dream you've ever had for your future? The one that still scares you because it feels too big to say out loud. The room changes. Her body language shifts. Maybe she laughs, tries to deflect at first. People are so unused to being asked about their impossible dreams, you almost have to insist with pure patience. Wait for her to drop the act, to whisper the truth that lives in the back of her mind. Here's what you need to understand about this question. You are now triggering hope inside her, adrenaline, maybe even a little ache for the life she hasn't dared to chase. That feeling, that raw imaginational charge is now tied to you because you dragged it out of her darkness into the light. And when you do that, memory rewires. Her brain learns you equals sign possibility. No one forgets the person who made them feel like maybe, just maybe, the future could be wild. But you want more. You want her soul, right? Then you go for forbidden territory. You say, tell me about a moment when you felt completely misunderstood by everyone around you. Now you're diving into pain, into alienation, into her ghosts. Most people avoid these places. You, though, you caught them. She'll probably pause, maybe study your face to check if you're messing with her. People are scared to name the moments when the world stopped making sense to them. If she chooses to answer, she'll unearth a secret, and she'll forever link you to the feeling of finally being seen, finally saying the things she's never said out loud. That's not just a connection, that's a soul scar. That's real. But never forget there's a fine line between intimacy and interrogation. You have to match these questions with your presence, your focus. You need to share too when the moment is right. Give back vulnerability for vulnerability. Every answer she gives is a gift. Don't be the guy who takes and never opens up his own world. You can't receive trust without risking some of your own blood in the process. But you're not done. Not if you want to be unforgettable. Not if you want her dreaming about you instead of anyone else. You don't just ask about the past, the regrets, the loneliness. You pivot. You inject danger. You say, if you could do anything, absolutely anything, without fear of consequences or judgment, what would you do right now? Silence. She has to think, maybe really think. You didn't give her an easy out. Now she's in imagination territory, adrenaline firing, parts of her brain blazing that you've single-handedly activated. Here's what you're doing. You're making her want. You're making her admit wanting out loud in front of you a man who clearly isn't threatened by desire. That's magnetic. If you listen, really listen, she'll tell you more about her deepest self than anyone has ever gotten in months, years, maybe ever. She might blush. She might get cagey. She might confess something that shocks you or her. She might decide to trust you with a secret so bold it makes the air electric between you. This isn't just conversation anymore. This is a chemical reaction. Now you could play it safe. But you came here for more, right? You want to know how to make her fall, not just flirt. You want her to feel like you're inevitable. So you go for the jugular. You ask, what's the hardest lesson love has ever taught you? It's a risk. But you're not here to play small. The word love twists the knife. It brings past heartbreak, shame, vulnerability, and hope into the open. It shows her you're not afraid of the big subjects, the ones that scare most men into silence or distraction. She has to decide, evade or reveal. If she answers, she'll give you her scars, and you hold them gently without judgment, with the kind of gravitas that lets her know you're not running away, no matter what. You do this right, you'll never be forgotten. She'll replay your words in her head. She'll wake up thinking about you. She'll want to know what questions you'll ask next. You're not like the others. Never have been, never will be. And that's exactly what she's been waiting for, whether she knew it or not. Now you're not just a man in the room. You're the gravity pulling everything toward you. She can't help but angle her body closer, even if it's only a fraction at first. Her voice drops lower, more private, like she's confessing in a cathedral. Her eyes don't wander, they're fixed to yours, searching for your reaction, your approval, your echo of understanding. No one else exists for her in this moment. You've become the exception to every rule she's ever made about men and what she'll allow herself to feel. But don't get cocky. The more you see her, the deeper you ask, the more responsibility you have to hold that space. She's giving you pieces of her soul that nobody else gets. She'll remember if you misuse them. She'll remember if you get bored or turn away or laugh at the gravity of her pain. So you honor the privilege. You wear it like armor. Now here's where you go all in. If you want her to fall, not just flirt, not just play along, but actually fall, you break out the question that most people are too weak to ask, too scared of the answer to hear. What's the one risk you know you should take, but you keep holding yourself back from? It's a bomb. Simple but nuclear. You're asking her to imagine the life unlived, the version of herself she's always denied or delayed or dismissed. You're not just asking for a story, you're asking for a confession. Watch what happens. Her posture shifts. Her breath changes. She might get quiet because for the first time she has to admit out loud that she wants something badly enough to be afraid of it. You've just made her face her own limits, and you're the one holding out your hand to pull her beyond them. That's mind-fucking power, and you better wield it with respect. Maybe she gives you a safe answer. Something easy, funny, nothing that rips open her chest. Or maybe she gives you the real one. If she does, you protect it fiercely like it's a flame you're shielding from the wind. You react with intensity like you're in awe because you are. Because you know most people never dare to dream out loud, and you just made her do it. Now that courage is welded to your presence, she'll remember you as the man who made her speak her truest self. But you're not finished. You want her to want you, not just the conversation. You want her to feel drawn in by the parts of herself she only discovered in your presence. So you escalate in a way that's almost psychic. You hit her with, if our time together was a story, what would you name the chapter we're writing right now? Sounds simple, but it's a trapdoor. She must step into the moment, take your connection seriously, and give it a name. This is more than conversation. You're inviting her to write her future, to see herself intertwined with you, even if she denies it out loud. This is essential. Because when you ask how she'd name this chapter, you're getting her to visualize you as pivotal, as a character who changes things, as a catalyst. She'll attach feelings to that thought. You're not just the background to her life, now you're a plot twist. And when she answers, absorb it. Let her see your reaction. Let her see that you value her imagination, her creativity, her power to shape reality. Most men ignore a woman's creative force. You make it central. That's how you stand out. That's how you haunt her thoughts. You're building a dream, word by word. But don't ever drop the tension. Don't ever let it get too safe, too predictable, too much like anything she could get with 100 other men. Be the exception. You drop your next question with a sly, dangerous edge. What's the one thing you hope I never discover about you? This is where things get electric. Shame and desire live in the same darkness. If she tells you the truth, she's giving you her most forbidden territory. This is not a question for the faint-hearted or for shallow conversation. This is a question that demands everything from her and from you. If she hesitates, don't rush her. Let the silence stretch. Let the moment get uncomfortable. Because discomfort is the border of intimacy. If she answers, don't judge. Don't smirk. Don't weaponize her honesty. Hold it with respect. This is where bonds form, where the world shifts, where she realizes you're not just another tourist in her life, but a permanent resident in her memory. You keep holding the space, keep raising the stakes. By now, she's addicted. Not to you, not even to the conversation, but to the feeling of being real for the first time in a long time. And that's what will keep her coming back. That's what will make her fall hard, fast, and all the way. Because in a world of surface, you went for depth. In a world of noise, you gave her signal. In a world of sleepwalkers, you woke her up and made her see the wildness inside herself. She'll never forget the man who showed her who she really is. She'll never forget you. If you've made it this far, feel your pulse right now, the thrum in your veins. You know this is different. This isn't about manipulation, it's about mastery. It's about rewiring everything you've ever been taught about connection. You're not some parrot with a playbook. You're the rare one, the lightning in a world of burnt-out bulbs. By now, the air between you is something you both feel, something almost sacred, buzzing with a possibility that can't be faked. She's looking at you differently, not because you've won her with charm, but because you've shattered her expectations. Hell, even if she doesn't want to fall for you, some primal part of her is hooked. She's awake, raw, on the edge of reinvention, and you're the trigger. But let's burn the truth in deep. These questions only work because you're not afraid of the answers. You're not running from intensity, you're inviting it. So here's how you twist the knife, but in the way that's pure, not cruel. The final mind bender, the question that will haunt her tomorrow and every day after. What would you do if you knew I'd never judge you, not ever, no matter what you said or wanted or felt? Let her go silent. Watch her eyes. You've just offered unconditional freedom, the rarest drug. You become the only safe space in a world that punishes women for their rawest truth. You become the confessional, the escape, the fantasy, the place where she is most alive and least alone. She will never forget you. Long after the conversation ends, that question echoes. It's not about earning her love, it's about becoming the backdrop of her future imagination. Every time she edits herself for someone else, she'll remember the night she didn't have to for you. But you're not just a vessel. You're a force, so you reciprocate. You stare her down and you answer the question too. You confess. You show her you're as unafraid as you expect her to be. That's the final door. That's when everything flips, when you're no longer the interviewer, but the co-conspirator. This is true connection. This is the kind of chemistry that can't be faked. It's dangerous, yes. Most men are terrified of it. Terrified of the vulnerability, the loss of control, the risk. You aren't. That's why you're unforgettable. Now, don't cheapen any of this with routine. Don't turn these questions into a checklist, a pickup trick, a performance. Don't ask unless you're braced to handle whatever comes back at you: pleasure, pain, wild joy, secret shame. And most of all, don't forget what this is really about. You're not making her fall for you. You're creating the conditions for real, total, mind-bending intimacy. That's alchemy. That's the real seduction, to show her there's more to life, more to herself, more to a man than she dreamed possible. The rest is gravity. The rest is biology. She'll orbit you like a planet around a sun. And here's what happens next. She leaves this conversation elevated, different. Every man after you will seem smaller, paler, less vivid, because you taught her how deep the rabbit hole goes. You rescued her from ordinary. You made her see herself as extraordinary. That's not just game. That's the power to haunt. That's legacy. So what do you do now? You go live the questions. You become the man who asks them everywhere, not just with her. You aim for connection that actually matters. You demand substance in a world that rewards empty noise. You never ever settle for shallow again. Because when you've tasted this depth, nothing else is enough. So close your eyes with this burning in your chest. Remember the silence after the 10th question. Remember her eyes, bright and wide, when she realized she'd never be the same. That's how you make her fall. That's how you make her remember. That's how you change your life, by daring to go where no one else does. And if you're honest, that's what you've always wanted to. Let it settle in, the aftermath, the echo. Because here's what everyone gets wrong about questions. They think it's about having the right words, the perfectly crafted phrase, some magic password that makes a woman's heart unlock. But the real magic is what happens after you ask, in the space you build, in the electricity you let charge the air, in the way you react to the unfiltered, sometimes messy, often breath-stealing truth that pours out of her. You see, the world has conditioned her to apologize for her intensity, to shrink her dreams, to censor her desire until it's palatable. You just undid years of self-doubt with a handful of unstoppable, world-bending questions. You offered validation and curiosity so fierce it scares even you a little. She might never say it out loud, but you can feel her recalibrating around you. She's remembering who she is, who she wants to be, because you saw her and you didn't look away. You didn't laugh, you didn't shut down, you didn't compare her to anyone else. You let the confessions stand on their own, powerful and unashamed. That's how you become gravity in her world. But let's be brutal, because this is the kind of script that lets you sleep at night, knowing you're not just another background character in someone else's dream. If you want to live by these questions, you better get ready to be changed by the answers. You can't play with dynamite and walk away unscathed. You'll hear things that shake your own foundations, that force you to examine your own beliefs, your own limits, your own capacity for love and empathy. That's the final step. You don't just make a woman fall for you. You let yourself fall too. Fall for the truth, fall for the chaos, fall for the reality that every connection worth having will leave you a little raw, a little exposed, a little more awake than you were when you started. So all those other men, the ones stuck in the shallow end, the boys trading surface for safety, let them have their boring routines, their empty victories, their silent nights. You'll be the one she remembers when she can't stand another second of the ordinary, when she craves the feeling of being alive. And this doesn't just change how you relate to women. It transforms how you move in the world. You start demanding substance from your friends. You start calling out the lies you tell yourself. You start questioning the narratives you swallowed about who you're supposed to be, what you're allowed to want, how deep you're brave enough to go. Everywhere you turn, you craft connection, you spark ignition, you become the person others want to confess to, want to dream with, want to trust with the things that scare them most. That's the payoff. Not the numbers in your phone, not the flutter of a new infatuation, but the raw soul-level knowledge that when you speak, you pierce the facade, you close the distance, you wake people up. And in a world sleepwalking through small talk, that's the most dangerous, valuable gift you could ever give. Now, as the night settles and her head hits the pillow, you know she'll replay your words. She'll stare at the ceiling, insomniac with the rush of her own honesty. She'll wish for just one more question, one more minute, one more impossible intersection with the only person who made her see herself anew. That's not something you can force. That's not a trick. That's the art of the unforgettable question and the rare, relentless courage to ask it. So the next time you lock eyes with a woman across a crowded room, remember, the world is starving for connection. She is dying to be seen. And you, if you're brave enough, could be the answer to a question she never even dared to ask herself. Are you ready for that responsibility? Because once you start living this way, there's no going back. You become the exception, the disruption, the invitation. You're not just a man anymore. You're the beginning of her awakening. And if you do this right, maybe, just maybe, yours too. And now let the weight of it press down on your chest. Let it settle in the corners of your mind. Let this new power make you restless, because you know you'll never be satisfied with shallow again. You know what's out there, rooms clogged with empty banter, with dead-end questions, with men too afraid to look beyond skin and style, too afraid to risk the embarrassment of a question that might actually get a real answer. And you know tonight that will never be you again. You've seen what happens when you push it, when you dare to take a conversation off the tracks into the wild, where anything can happen. You've seen how her eyes go glossy, how her voice softens, how her stories get longer and riskier and more alive. You've seen that a woman starves for this, starves for someone who actually wants to know, not just what's on the surface, but what's locked beneath. And you get hungry too. Because if you're honest with yourself, you've been playing safe, repeating lines, accepting the boredom, because it was easier than rejection or judgment, or maybe even your own vulnerability. You know that every time you played it small, you robbed yourself of the connection you craved most. But now you know exactly what to do. You have the keys. 10 questions, each one a detonator, a spark, a mirror. Each one a chance to break both of you out of the games you didn't even know you were playing. Let the world keep sleepwalking. Let other men flip through dating apps like TV channels, keeping every conversation stuck on mute, terrified of pressing unmute, terrified of what they'll actually hear. Not you. You're going to walk into every room, every date, every future moment with this fire under your skin, the absolute dangerous willingness to know a woman and to let her know you for real. You'll scan her face for signs of hunger, for the flicker that says, "No one's ever asked me that." You'll wait for the hesitation, the pause, the laughter that hides fear, the whispered confession. You'll never get bored, not again. Because once you've tasted this level of intensity, once you've felt what it's like to be seen, and to make the air so thick with possibility that it's almost hard to breathe, nothing else will do. You'll refuse to be background noise. You'll refuse to be another shadow in her memory. You'll leave her reeling, walking home in the dark, asking herself why nobody else ever made her feel this awake. And maybe when she's lying in bed, she'll pick up her phone, type you a message, not something cute or routine, but something real. Something that means she's still thinking about you, still feeling the echo of what you did together. She'll want one more hit of that honesty, one more glimpse of herself through your eyes. You gave her a gift by asking. She's not going to want to put it down. So let this burn into you tonight. The world doesn't need another man who's nice. The world needs more men who are bold enough to go deep, to be changed by what they find, to pull the truth out into the light and hold it without flinching. You want to sleep easy. You want to wake up never doubting your own worth again. Then be that man. Live by the questions. Let them build a new you from the inside out. Let her fall for you not because you played it safe, but because you made her feel something she thought was lost, and because you had the courage to feel it too. This is how you become a legend. This is how you become unforgettable. This is how you make her fall, and how you become the story she'll carry with her for the rest of her life. And if you're still hungry for more, just remember there are 1,000 more questions out there still waiting, and 1,000 more women starving for someone fearless enough to ask them. Be that man. Let the world catch up, or not. You'll be too busy living wide awake. So here you are, standing on the edge of all that possibility. The questions burning in your pocket, the hunger for something deeper simmering in your blood. You know now exactly what you're capable of, how it feels to hold space so potent that people spill secrets, break old patterns, dream wildly right in front of you. You've seen the power words can have to disrupt someone's world and your own. That's not a skill. It's a revolution in how you move through life. You start realizing that it's not just about getting the girl. That was never the real win anyway. The win is how alive you feel, how charged every connection gets, how suddenly every moment in your life seems electric. You're awake when most of the world is numbed out. You're living with your foot on the gas, never settling for less than what makes your pulse pound. You walk out into the city, into the night, and the way you hold yourself has changed. You don't need validation because you already know what you bring. You know 9 out of 10 people aren't ready for this kind of intensity, but the ones who are, the ones who crave it, will find you irresistible. They'll come looking for you, hungry for the kind of conversation that leaves them sweating, shaking, reborn. And maybe you'll see her again. Maybe you won't. It doesn't matter. Because now you're the guy who changes people. You're the cut in the fabric of their routine. You're the echo of the question they wish someone else would ask. You're the reason for the shiver down their spine when they remember what it felt like to be seen, not just looked at. You're marked by the courage to stay honest, to risk, to be the catalyst. You're not the safe one. You're not the predictable one. You're not the background noise. You're the storm, the reason ordinary feels impossible after you've passed through. So take those questions and live them. Don't just ask, listen deeply. Don't just provoke, share, bleed, match her truth with your own. Become the man who never flinched. The man women don't just want, they remember, talk about, dream of, measure others against. That's how you make her fall. That's how you make yourself unforgettable. That's how you make sure when your own head hits the pillow at the end of a wild, honest, relentless life, you can finally sleep in peace, knowing you never missed a chance to go deep, get real, and leave your mark. Because in the end, the greatest seduction isn't about getting her, it's about awakening you. That's what you were really after all along. And now, you know exactly how to get it. Thanks for sticking us until the end. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. See you in the next one.